Live from Las Vegas, I'm Diego Sanchez, president of HousingWire, and I'm joined this morning by Seth Hooper, the Chief Product Officer at Mortgage Cadence. Seth, it's so great to talk with you today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Very excited about everything that's going on in our industry, and great to be here in Las Vegas and be able to talk to all of our clients and other lenders in the industry.
Yeah, so tell us about that role, Chief Product Officer at Mortgage Cadence.
Yeah, so I've been in this industry for 25 years. Been with Mortgage Cadence since about 2010, and what I'm responsible for is I oversee both the strategy and product here at Mortgage Cadence.
And AI is a big buzzword in the industry. It has been for a couple of years now, but Mortgage Cadence has chosen to hone in on the intersection of AI with compliance and regulatory issues. Tell me about that focus.
Sure. So, what really excites me here at Mortgage Cadence is that I'm able to solution and deliver innovative products for our clients. So we have clients that do everything from conventional to government lending to reverse mortgage to DSCR, high net worth lending. So a variety of products. And so I really enjoy working with those clients. And when it comes to the AI component, the reason why we're so focused on the innovation, the crossroads of innovation and compliance, is because mortgage is a highly regulated industry. So it's really existential that there's auditability and traceability that's built into that product so that when you deliver those solutions, it's not an afterthought.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I feel like every couple of days we're moving forward a year in AI time, and it's far outstripping what the regulatory bodies and what national legislatures and state legislatures can keep up with.
Yes.
So how do you help lenders stay compliant when AI is innovating so quickly?
Sure. A lot of lenders will say, or people in conversation will say, what's the best model to pick to make sure that you're staying on top of those things? And I say, really the first thing you've got to look at is you've got to start with your governance and your governance policies, because you've got to ensure that they are robust and thorough enough that they're going to adopt as those models or AI changes. So, some of the key tenets of that is going to be the proportionality of it. What is you got to go through and you've got to really rank and put your AI usages into different asset categories, because there's going to be things that are going to be more assistive, like in our platform, helping a user navigate to a specific page, or on how to put additional data field in, versus things that are going to be impacting that credit decision. So if it's credit impacting, you've got to have much stricter oversight and policies around that than, say, assistive. The next thing that comes after that is you've really got to make sure you've got transparency and explainability in the system. By explainability, you've got to make sure that how the decision was made by the AI in human language and terms, like in business terms. Why did it make that decision? And then that traceability to make sure, how did it come to that decision? And I think the last two things that you've got to make sure you've got in there is you've got to have the ability to make sure it's got auditability, where you can go in and audit that, because models change all the time. You've got to know, is that based upon GPT-5? Or, what's going to come out in the future, GPT-6 or whatever comes out. You've got to make sure you understand that you've got a framework that you can rerun that decision as it was at that point in time. The last thing is you've got to make sure that your policy's got validation. You've got to make sure you've got a human in the loop and a governance model to make sure that you know what your teams are implementing. What models are they using? Are they open or closed? Things like that. So you've got to make sure it's got those 5 key tenets of that governance policy to make sure you're staying on top of things.
Yeah, walk me through, you've been in the industry for a while now. Walk me through how you would advise a lender who is maybe looking around for a new technology and compliance partner.
Sure.
What should they be looking for?
Sure. When you're looking for a partner or a provider in the industry, you've got to look at what is that provider's governance policy, and does it align with what your policy is? Typically, lenders are going to have a questionnaire that they're going to go through and make that provider fill out and make sure it aligns. And some of the key things you're looking for are, what model are they using? How often is that model updated? But more importantly, how does that vendor communicate updates out when that model's done? Do they have an open or closed model? is that lender's data going to be used as part of that process for training purposes? So you've got to ask your vendor, how are they going to handle these situations? How are they going to take your feedback and improve that into the system? Lastly, you've got to, ensure that how is that, vendor keeping track of your key privacy attributes of your consumer, because there's going to be more and more biometric data and things like that to make sure how are those being protected.
So in your role as Chief Product Officer, how are you balancing innovation with compliance? And then how are you sharing that balance with your team and then helping them share that balance with Mortgage Cadence's clients?
I've got a passion for compliance. And, a lot of people look at, well, what is the purpose of that compliance? What is the purpose of that governance? And they're saying, well, it's to protect consumers. But historically, the protection of consumers has kind of hindered speed and innovation and the time you go. And I look at it as really what you've got to do is to say, how do we align those things? In business, a lot of times expectations aren't set right because you've got misalignment. And really what you want is you want alignment with the consumer and the lenders and regulators. And what do they want to do? I think the goal is these borrower-centric outcomes where we're focused on making sure that the consumer has transparency on what they're getting. They understand what they're purchasing. They want speed, right? Nobody wants to sit around for 40 days to get a mortgage. They want to be able to get that as quickly as possible. And they want to have a really good experience doing this because at the end of the day, it's about a home that they're either purchasing or refinancing. So it's a very big decision. So by looking at compliance from that lens to say, how can we bring in speed and safety with that same alignment to get that overall goal? By taking that lens of it, I think people look at it and say, oh, this is a really positive thing and something that we can work together on versus just being, oh, it's compliance, we have to do it.
Right. So move fast, but this is mortgage, so maybe you shouldn't break things.
Yes, absolutely. You've got to make sure that you've got the speed in there, but you want that safety aspect of it, and so you got to make sure that you've got the transparency with everything you do.
So in your role, I would guess you get to look ahead and think about what the future is going to bring and how it's going to impact your clients. What do you think about the future of mortgage and Mortgage Cadence's role in that future?
When I look back, when I got in this industry 25 years ago, things were still very much a paper business. Everything was printed out. They had file folders that they would wheel around between desks to do things. And, our focus has been how do we get to a digital mortgage as quickly as possible? And I can see now, and there are certainly aspects in the industry today where there are certain boxes, small little boxes where certain loans will go through the system very quickly, right? Where you've got a fully automated HELOC. You've got certainly situations where you can have a pretty automated conventional loan. But I see that box expanding where the majority of the market is going to have a fully digital experience that's really going to bring down the speed it takes to get a mortgage. And here at Mortgage Cadence, we've really been focused on how do we make AI and our LOS system really plug and play. We want it to be as easy as taking a USB cord and plugging it into your laptop so that we can really enable lenders to do what they do best, which is work with their consumers and serve those clients, but be able to plug in the right frameworks that they want to use to really differentiate themselves from the competition. We know there's a lot of competition in this market space and that each lender knows what's best for their clientele to be able to focus and grow their business. And we want to be there to support that growth.
Well, Seth, thank you so much for joining me today. I think we've had a really interesting and productive conversation about AI, Mortgage Cadence, and your role in the future of mortgage. Again, thank you so much for joining me today.
All right, thank you so much.